gorilla strength. You are now listening to the Gorilla Strength Podcast with their hosts, Scott Lamb, John Davis, and JT Donahue.
All right, back with another one here at Gorilla Strength Podcast. Our guest today, Steve Coyne. I'm saying that right, correct?
That's it, correct.
Do people say your last name wrong?
I
Coyne?
get all sorts of different things. As long as it's close, I'll be fine. But yeah, it's Coyne.
All right, Coyne. All right.
Oh, JT Donahue is still on assignment, so hopefully he'll join us down the road.
Yeah, maybe one day he'll be cool enough to come back here, but
make the trek back north.
We'll see about that.
So,
yeah, man, good to have you on today.
Thanks for coming down. I know it was a long ride. All that traffic, so still Florida traffic, dude.
I-4, always a good time.
Oh yeah.
And diving into it, you are the USS State Chair of Florida.
Correct.
How long have you been the state chair there?
So coming up on, I guess, 2.5 years now, 2023. So almost 2 years. 2023, I took over.
So you were promoting before you took over. So you had the Manatee, which is coming up on 5 years.
Year 5 this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I moved down to Florida in 2020 during COVID era. I had promoted a few shows in Chicago right before that, so I had just gotten going. But first full one would have been March 2021 in Bradenton. That was World's Strongest Manatee #1.
How'd you come up with that name?
It's sort of a divine inspiration. I'm in Manatee County, which is really helpful. Everybody loves manatees, and as I was just thinking about it, I don't even really remember where it came to me, but I always find it pretty funny because, in my opinion, if you take your average super heavyweight strongman, put him next to a manatee, they kind of look the same. So I was like, oh, this is a winner. This is it.
Because when I first saw it, I was like, what the hell has a manatee got to do with I was like, what is this? But then, being from Manatee County, stuff like that, I understood it. And manatees are a pretty big deal here in Florida. So
it just rolls off the tongue nicely. World's Strongest Man, World's Strongest Manatee.
Perfect title, yeah.
I think it's great. I love it. I get a good kick out of it every time I say it 5 years later, and try to have some fun with it. If you can't tell from every year, the Manatee
gets bigger.
Logo gets a little crazier. This year he's got pirate, and
he's all jacked and shit.
Yeah, right. He's a little softer year 1, but he's turned up a little bit.
Well, he got on something. Who knows?
Evolve.
But I was just I think I remember hearing you talk about you had come down from Chicago. You're born and raised in Chicago?
No, I'm from Texas originally. So I was in Chicago from 2015 to 2020. Came down like I said, during COVID era. But born and raised in Texas. Yeah, Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay, yeah. That's where I went to National there not too long ago. It was USS was at
in
Dallas.
In Dallas, correct.
Yeah. Big state, obviously. So
huge.
But I think I want to say that Texas was the only state that had more competitions than Florida did. Did you see that list?
I believe so. Yeah, it would have been California, Florida, and Texas top 3, and then actually New York and Pennsylvania had a pretty decent amount, and there's a huge drop off after that. But I think Florida was number 2 or 3.
Is that USS or overall?
Overall.
Okay.
PA I know would be Bixler. That's Kyle Bixler and all those guys.
Yeah.
He's got a big territory up there. Great crew of people, good guys, man, super solid guys, been in the sport forever. So New York, I'm not sure, but I'm not sure who's running that. But I know that Bixler had like 3 or 4 states that he ran, he was over. So real good people up there. So what kind of got you into the sport of strongman initially?
Sure. Of course, everybody always says, oh, I used to watch those guys on TV. You see them throwing stones around, chucking kegs, this and that. But I really got into strongman and strength training when I started working out for sports, mainly basketball and football in high school. And then I went into, to get stronger, Metroflex Gym in Arlington, Texas, which people may know is home of Ronnie Coleman, people like Branch Warren. Yes. So I immediately got hooked into strength training, powerlifting, and they had things like stones and logs. And my coach at the time, and still mentor, Josh Bryant, we used to do a lot of strongman adjacent stuff. So we would, even though it was powerlifting training, we would do farmer's walks and yokes and explosive throws and tire flips.
Yeah.
And that just captivated me so much more than any sort of team sport or anything else, because at the time I was always a pretty overweight kid. Growing up, I was a fat kid my whole entire life. And then when I started getting into powerlifting, I was getting stronger and getting more muscular and losing a lot of weight. So I was really like feeling really good about myself for the first time in my entire life. And it's that buzz that you can't get from anything else that just hooked me, as it does for pretty much everybody else that gets into this.
Right. What, like you say you were heavy, like what was your heaviest body weight?
260.
Holy shit. And you're, and you're a 175er, so.
Yeah, walk around weight like 183 right now, so it's up to 260.
How old were you when you were 260?
I got to that point at 16.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was, bad nutrition and this and that. That was at the kind of beginning of my proper lifting career. I was just talking to somebody about this. I fell for the trap of Celtec. Of course, everybody did.
Hell yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Celtec, 60 or 70 grams of sugar. And of course, you have to take the loading phase because it's creatine. So you have to take your 3 servings every day for 2 weeks. So that means for 2 weeks straight, you're taking 210 grams of sugar every single day. To
Nothing
get
wrong
huge.
with that at all.
Yeah. No. And then,
for a young man.
right. I didn't know any better, so I would read the Muscle Mags. This was still when Muscular Development and Flex.
When there were magazines.
Right, when they were still real popular. And I would read, oh, wow, Tom Platz. 4 pounds of meat a day to get big, huh? Okay.
Sure.
I'll try that. So I do things like that too. So I went from already a pretty large overweight base, and then I just ballooned up big time. And I remember I went up one flight of stairs, and I was out of breath. And I was fortunate enough at that moment in time to think, well, I should turn this around a little bit.
Right. Well, you're lucky you did, I mean, because, I'm sure if you're like me, are you a full-time trainer?
Yes.
Yeah, I am as well. John as well. I mean, we see it all the time with kids, the especially American kids, man. It's bad.
Yeah.
Like I remember, me going to school. Like I would say, I can remember I was in a big high school, and have I can remember 5 or 6 overweight kids in my whole class. I think I graduated with 400 or 500 kids. It was somewhere in between there.
Yeah.
And now it's like.
You see it everywhere.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
More people across the world are obese than starving right now.
Sure. Yeah, it's
crazy.
And that's a whole other podcast we could get into.
Well, we both had kids that were grossly overweight that we were working with.
Oh, for sure. I mean, kids that are on, in my opinion, very grown-up medications, blood pressure medications at 13 years old, which I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
And to see, and you would hope that sports or something like, whether it's football, whatever it is, could turn kids around as it did with you, but it just doesn't seem to be, I don't know, as prevalent anymore. Yeah. It's like, a lot of kids, they don't want to do shit, man. They want to keep their face buried in iPads and
phones and video games. And
I mean, it's
anything but going outside and playing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's unfortunate. It's understandable, though.
No. Yeah, it's just the world we live in. It's the evolution, and the parents are the same. I mean, they're learning it from their parents. Yeah. So pretty crazy.
What all sports did you play as a child?
I went through briefly a bit of everything: baseball, basketball, football. I played hockey for a little while.
Cool.
Brief tenure as a goalie in soccer, but I'm 5'8". That didn't last very long.
Right over the head.
Yeah. So basketball was my favorite when I was younger. Played that a lot, but as I said, as soon as I got my hands on the iron in that environment, I was this is it.
I understand that 100%. I know exactly what you mean.
So did you do strongman? I don't know if you already touched on this. Sorry if I didn't, but did you do strongman in Texas, and like as far as a comp in Texas or Chicago, or did you just start when you were?
So my first strongman competition as an athlete, I did one when I was 17 in high school, sort of as a one-off, and then really only powerlifting so that would be a span of 2009 until 2018. I was only doing powerlifting.
Okay.
There's not much of a strongman scene in Chicago. That was actually the reason why I got into promoting, is it doesn't exist anywhere around here. So if not me, then who? I started putting on shows. The first one that I did, I had to drive all the way down to Kentucky with Dave Waters, the Mammoth Classic. You probably know that one. Awesome, great show in a rodeo arena. Had a blast. Did not do super hot, but was also, again, hooked. Said, this is great. I want more of this. Put on, called it Big Shoulders Classic, was the first one I did up in Chicago shortly after that. But a lot of powerlifting in between then.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I think a lot of us, that's where I came from as well. Like, my transition was from powerlifting into strongman? Is there anything, because we definitely have our stories of what drove us out of powerlifting. Was there any one thing that drove you away from powerlifting into it, or just wanted, I mean, for me, I got bored with training for sure, well, amongst other things. But once I got into strongman, I could kind of feel that I was a better athlete than I was just a powerlifter, if that makes sense.
Sure. There wasn't an incident or anything. I do think that strongman is cooler. It's more fun.
Yeah.
More things to train for. The athleticism obviously is appealing. You have to be quick, strong, fast,
right.
agile, as well as stronger than everybody else at the same time.
Right.
So nothing really pushed me out of powerlifting. Strongman is just much more captivating and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way as far as, you know, I just didn't get as bored because, you know, it's always changing, you know, especially now with the events. Like even we were talking earlier when we went up to Coyne. He just had a comp, and he was doing stuff up there that I have never personally. I've seen it in other countries, but never locally saw it. And
right.
You know, so promoters are definitely stepping up and changing the game as far as different implements and, you know, pushing the boundaries, which, you know, this year going back to your show, you've definitely stepped it up by landing yourself in the stadium, the Tampa Stadium, which is
very cool.
Doesn't matter, I don't think, who you are, who doesn't want to be on the floor of a stadium competing. So
for sure.
Is that with somebody you were tied in with? I mean, I know we're bouncing all over the place here, but is that or how did that come?
So that's through WOD Wars. So the past couple of years I've been running Beast of the Bay in Tampa at the Fit Fest Expo. They have a spring event, WOD Wars, that's been going on for 10 years. And because their previous site, which was the Dunedin Civic Center and Community Grounds, that had been the Hillsborough County dumping grounds for post-hurricane. So they were going back and forth whether or not they could guarantee this April time for WOD Wars again. And maybe it was going to be available, maybe not, but they're not going to stop this event after 10 years.
Right.
So the guy said, okay, Chris Zamudio, the man, said, okay, well, I'm going to try to go for Raymond James. I've had their number on the Rolodex for some time, so now is the time to call it up. But needing it to be a bigger scale event, I got the call, said, hey, do you want to come in and be a part of this? Said, absolutely. I was actually over in Europe. He hit me up. I said, yep, no questions. I'm in. Whatever it is, I'll make it happen. Powerlifting's there. Arm wrestling is going to have a gigantic tournament there.
I know
as well.
Yeah, I know that's starting to really pick up steam, especially down here. I think all sports have kind of come around full circle. Some of them have run their first initial hit phase. Like, you know, CrossFit was so big 10 years ago.
Huge.
And now it's kind of died off. It's not dead. Obviously, it's not going anywhere.
It's just going through a different era.
It is
right now.
But I think all of sports to make it pretty big, unless you're talking about, you know, having a big presence like Brian Shaw or whatever to put on, you know, a huge. But that's a huge undertaking. But even the Arnold, no one sport would carry the Arnold. You know, it's a festival. So festivals and expos, you're starting to see carry a lot more weight, and it makes sense. I mean, to draw. And who knows how many people have never been exposed to CrossFit if I'm from strongman or vice versa.
Right.
You have people that come in like, well, shit, I'd like to try that. So
that looks pretty cool. I've never seen that in person.
I definitely think. I mean,
exposure.
Yeah. I mean, my point is like everybody kind of needs everybody right now to build the base up.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because we are such. Even CrossFit now to me is a niche. Also, we're all niches. You know what I mean? We're all like these small subsets of people, and it's hard to run. I mean, because like strongman would never make it alone as of now at Raymond James Stadium.
Right.
As of now. You know,
I was
now. Just watching Europe's Strongest Man over in
different
Leeds,
ballgame.
and they sold out an entire arena, and
they do
the
that.
right person will get that done eventually here.
Sure. And I know Lynn's trying, you know, OSG, I think he puts on a good product.
And the seats, unfortunately, are mostly empty for those.
And I don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like, is it promotion? Is it marketing? I don't know. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, other than even if you look at Rogue is a big strongman. It's also coupled with CrossFit.
Yeah.
It's very big. So it makes sense. I mean, they're figuring something out. As far as a standalone, I would say Shaw has one of the biggest so far, and it's new. But he's obviously smart in how he markets.
Expo has the open with competitors that can come in from anywhere in those weight
Pro-Am
classes.
type thing.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And now they've added arm lifting, the they've added that. They have other. So like you said, they're continuing to add things around it.
Just smart. I mean, there's definitely smart. I mean, back in the day, you would never see like, and that I know of, you would never see like powerlifting join up with bodybuilding, or unless it was at a big expo. But even you're starting to see it on smaller scales, I think, because it's the only way that some of it's going to work anymore.
Right. And I think people get too tribal and don't understand or lose sight of the fact that we're really all in this together.
Right.
We're strength training. We might have different paths and things we want to max out. But, if you're somebody who lifts really hard, is dedicated to their craft, ultimately we're on the same team. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And I know you've got to hear it as a state, representative, that there's going to be a lot of people that don't agree with you. You know what I mean? On what you do or what I do.
Always.
You're never going to make everybody happy. And if you are, you're probably a pretty fake person in general.
No way, and it's unrealistic to think that you're going to be the fit for every single person. And that's one of the best things about strongman growing so much right now is we get to have all of these different styles of shows. I get complaints all the time about the weights I choose, the events I choose, too light, too heavy. That's a stupid event. Okay, hey, go over to this show, which is more of your style, and it's no harm. It's all good.
And truthfully, I've heard a lot, especially initially, people complaining about comps being way too light. You know what I mean? Especially with the changing of the guard, or I don't even say the changing of the guard, because it was even when USS just came about. With the big split with Strongman Corp and USS, that's what it was known for. Like, it's the JV league. I know that the nationals have gotten, they've gotten pretty heavy. They're definitely stepping up, and the local shows are definitely coming around. And we've talked about this before, as far as any blowback I've ever heard, or that I actually agree with too as well, is too many comps. We can talk about that. Like everybody has their take on it.
I'd be happy to go down that one.
Sure, and it's not something we don't have to agree on it or whatever, but I would love to hear your take on it. Because there are a ton of comps, some of which I've been to where I'm like, I think a lot of people say that it's going to work itself out in the end, which is true.
That would be my stance on the matter.
Yeah, a lot of these comps are going to hit the shit where they belong. I do think a lot of promoters these days, unfortunately, or maybe all the time, but definitely now, are in it for the wrong reasons. And what is your take on that? And the other question I would have is, do you think there should be standards on promoters? Like, should you be a competitor? Should you be a very, if you're going to do a high class comp, should you be a high class competitor? Or is that, it's just questions that I ask.
Sure.
And but we can go back to what you think about as there being so many comps now.
Yeah, lots of legs here. So if you want to pause me and dig deeper, please feel free. But this is a problem, in my opinion, a good problem because of explosive growth. Mm-hmm. Strongman is growing rapidly and explosively. We mentioned early on, second most shows in the entire country per state.
Yes.
Right? Now, when I first got here in 2021, there were 5 posted competitions across the entire state of Florida. The last 2 years, there have been over 35. Mm-hmm. Okay, so naturally, we have to assume that not all of them are going to be super high quality.
Yeah, they're not going to make it right.
Right. And this is several things. One, I think that I've gotten better at my craft because I have continued to learn from my experience and get better and learn what I made mistakes on and just keep growing and growing and growing, improving. So let's hope that people that are in it for the right reasons, let's say they come out the gate and have a real stinker show. Mm-hmm. If they really care, then they are going to do everything they can to make it better,
learn from
ask
that.
for help, and grow, and then turn it into something really good. If they don't care that much, they are going to be out soon, right? So it's a good problem, and I think it will work itself out that way. But also, as I said earlier, this gives us all these different types of possible shows. So we could have, I prefer to do a little more athletic style shows. Some people say, oh, that's too light. I think it's an athletic strength strongman competition. So if you don't like that, there are many other competitions which are very, very, very static based, heavy,
right?
Or just very heavy short distance moving events. They're all over. Mm-hmm. So
And the reality of it is, if you're going to go high-level nationals, whatever it is, OSG, USS Nationals, Strongman Corporate, you need to be good at all of it. Because if you're not rounded,
need to be good at all of it.
You're probably, you would be very lucky to find, let's say it was your first time going to nationals and you rolled up there and all 5 or 6 events were your events. Good luck with that shit. You know what I mean? Because most of the time, like you said, and I do agree with that as far as like, if I'm a super heavy lifting, static guy, am I going to be very good at moving for 200 yards? Probably not. And there's freaks that do it, you know what I mean? Those guys are the best. That's why they are the best at everything, well-rounded. So I understand that as well. Would you say, like, you evolving your show, like in general, that you've been making it heavier, like going on the heavier end of the spectrum? Or
my new perspective is I'm going to start making Beast of the Bay have a little bit more heavier options. I'm going to push for a couple more static lifts and keep World's Strongest Manatee a lot more explosive, athletic, movement-based type things. So I am going to slowly sort of veer those two to make. So Beast of the Bay this year will have a max raw deadlift and a trump log option. Okay. So there'll be things.
Starting to see that a lot as well.
Yeah. And that's a really tough one. This year I do have a log press for reps, and that's a nightmare to pick the right weight for everybody across the class because you have so many outliers in every single division. Right. A lot of people are insanely good at log that are going to come out there and do maybe 15, but then in the same division, you will have people that do 1 or 2. So how do we find a fair balance for that in one weight? And that is where the Trump Mercy situation comes into play to make it fair and get people to participate a lot.
And let me stop you there. For people that don't know what a Trump log or a Trump lift is, you will have a light weight that you can choose, or you can have a heavy weight that you can choose. Any one rep on the heavier weight beats any amount of weight that you do on the second one. So if someone does 15 reps on the light log and I do 1 on the Trump, I win.
Right.
So just for people that if they don't understand that lingo, and you do see that a lot now. I've seen it with deadlifts. I've seen it with definitely overhead presses, axle logs, circus dumbbells, right? You're starting to see it a lot more. And it is a way to kind of level the field, I guess you could say.
What I think it is, and this is a bigger perspective and issue that happens in some strongman competitions, is I want people to show up to my competitions and be able to maximize their performance, whatever that means to them. I've been to many shows, and I'm sure we all have, where you see people 0, 3 or more events, and that's a bummer. And sometimes the athlete is signing up for something that's way above their head, and I encourage that. I'm not talking down on that because I think everybody should aim high, but I have to consider, let's say you're coming to my competition, you're my friends and family, you're coming to cheer me on, and you see me completely fail and 0 at 60% or even 40% of the events. I'm not successful to do any of that. Compare that to the opposite. What's going to happen if you see me do pretty well? These people that have no idea what's going on in strongman, and they see their best friend, their sister, their brother go in and lift this weight, because to them it doesn't matter if it's 100 or 500 pounds. It's just a big object. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. But what happens is they might be interested in trying it for themselves, and then they're going to tell their friends about it. They're going to start, the word spreads rapidly. So there is a time and a place for, these really challenging heavy lifts and events, and there's pathways that are going to give people those options to do heavier competitions if they want. But the reason why I lean into a little bit more of the, if you want to call it lighter, I don't think it's lighter, athletic-based strongman style events, is everybody gets to participate to a pretty high level, and the best win anyways. The guys that are going to win at the heavy shows are the ones that are going to win at these quick ones.
There's definitely truth to that.
Guaranteed.
I see people's perspective in all of it, especially like old school guys. I'm one of those guys,
Ye old head.
I've been called a gatekeeper and this and that, and I do believe in gatekeeping to a certain point when it comes to certain things. And, more of a, I don't know what you would even call it, just like just more of a naturalist when it came to strongman. But it's evolving, and that's
the game has changed. 100%. I think what needs to happen now is we can't really do just novice and open anymore. I think that this is so big that maybe we need some in-betweens, or a class above open, or a class in between, and maybe an intermediate So then we can still have this open level that's like a very high worthy challenge that you have to work your way up to. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I will say that even when Florida had very few comps, we did have, it was kind of a system going up, like where you had a couple level 1, because there used to be level 1, level 2, or it used to be a colors.
Platinum
silver,
plus, yeah.
Well, it was silver, gold,
Platinum.
and platinum plus. If you went to a platinum plus show back in the day, let me tell you something.
That was your pro.
Shit was heavy.
Yeah.
You get a pro card to win it. And now, I definitely think it's still around as far as levels go. And this is just my opinion when it comes to some of the competitors now. It almost seems like what they want is different. Because when I got into it, it seemed like our whole crew, when I was training with everybody went on to be kind of, pretty high level athletes. Everybody had the same want. Like, man, we want to go to, I want to make it to, whether it was going, I want to do well at Florida, at States. And I want to do well there. And then I want to do, the next stage, I want to see what I can do at Nationals and do well at Nationals. Yeah. And now you see people that never go to Nationals. They do a bunch of comps. So to each their own. I don't really understand that mindset, but I've always had a very competitive mindset. Like, and then I want to see, after, if I go to National, can I make it to Worlds? Can I make it to the Arnold? What's next?
Of course. I feel the same way. I have a hard time relating to people that don't want to hit the gas and push it to the very highest level.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that it just seems like they're kind of trophy hunting. And I guess you're going to have that in anything, or they cherry pick competitions, which, I mean, to each their own. I don't have a lot of respect for it, to be honest with you. Because if you're going to get better, you're probably going to run across some comps where you get your ass beat. I know 100%, I did.
Me too.
I mean, I remember going to the Arnold and getting mauled.
We only really get better because of those.
100%.
There's never been anybody good that hasn't gotten
crushed,
destroyed.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Many competitions or many moments, or they humiliated themselves on one event at some point in time, or they, in my example, totally botched a water cut, or it happens.
I've done that too.
Yeah, anybody good has failed repeatedly, and that happens at bigger scales when you're aiming higher, and a lot of people are intimidated by that to some degree.
You know what I think, and tell me if you agree or disagree with this, please, is a lot of it I think has changed because of social media, and people are so afraid to fail on some of this shit now. Like, and show that they fail. You know what I mean? Like, I, for one, don't post a lot. I never really have. But, I've been, especially at high-level comps, the way the Arnold was until recently it's changed. It's evolved. Thank God for, like, guys like us. 175ers had their division, but the 200s did not. And up until 2 years ago, we had to go with the 231s. And in my case, it would always be my third comp in a row after Florida's or Nationals, whatever.
Sure. And
I'd have to go right into it. And I was very grateful to make it as many times as I did. But I knew you were going, it's like a free slaughter, dude. You're going to get your ass beat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like going into a fight knowing that you're going to get jumped. It's like, my odds aren't too good. So it's kind of hard to get excited for that. But they've changed it now, with the Arnold and, with different weight classes. And I'm sure USS and them kind of battling each other has made them evolve. You know what I mean? Because before it was a monopoly for a long time. Mm-hmm. And there was one federation. That was it. There was nothing else. So I definitely think that definitely helped. But to see the growing pains of it, for people that have been around for a long time, I understand that as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I mean, so you have two comps. Those are the only two comps you have?
Third just got on the menu. Guess what? We got an exclusive. I'll announce it here.
Okay.
So on Sunday, August 17th. So August 16th will be Beast of the Bay at the Tampa Fit Fest, and then I'm going to run a two-person team, America's Strongest Team, strongman competition on the 17th on Sunday in Tampa, August 17th.
Okay.
So that's what's lined up, and I always say that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Never ends
Who
that
knows?
way. Never ends that way.
I'm
said after Beast of the Bay last year, I'm not doing another one, and then I did two more.
So what's your longest running show? Manatee?
Manatee right now,
so
number 5.
How has it grown from your first show to this year?
I was really fortunate the first year, World's Strongest Manatee number 1. I believe we had 45.
Which is pretty good for a first show.
I was floored. Yeah, and that was before Iron Podium, which makes it easy.
Right.
I was not connected to anybody here. I didn't know anybody when I got down here. But I chose classic events that everybody kind of liked.
Right. Traditional stuff.
Yes. Didn't try to reinvent the wheel or do anything crazy with rules. So I had a very good draw. We did the first 2 years at CrossFit Havoc in Bradenton. So year 1, 2021, did that by itself. Year 2, 3, and 4 teamed up with Brandon Hardy, who used to own Barbell Vice. And
yes.
so we ran concurrently with the Barbell Vice powerlifting meet. So year 2, we did that together at CrossFit Havoc. Year 3 and 4, we did them over at the Manatee County Fairgrounds. I loved that venue. I'm sad that Brandon got out of.
That was like a rodeo type, ground type thing.
Loved that. It was a rodeo clay pitch surface. And
huge pavilion is what it
Yes.
was. Just a massive pavilion.
Yes, and the best part about that was the drops. We can drop pretty much anything
you're
on
not
the surface
yeah.
and no problems whatsoever. So, of course, we had some mats. We had gentle, thin mats for the stones, but if somebody's just dropping it errantly in that surface, they could chuck it in any direction with as much force as possible. It's not going to break the stone. It's not going to break the surface.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and we had the groundsman, Danny, who would come by in between the events with a shovel and just smooth out the surface every single time. I loved that. It was amazing. And like I said, the Mammoth in Kentucky was also in a rodeo pitch at, I think, Eastern Kentucky University. And I loved that so much. So I was really excited when we got to do that.
Yeah, there's a couple comps that are like that. What's
Fulsterker, the big one, used to be like that.
Well, another one in Kentucky that they do it on the baseball field.
Same promoter. Yeah. It's Dave Waters again.
Yeah, was that Waters?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I couldn't remember who did it, but yeah, cool comp though. I mean,
love
yeah.
it.
So how many do you have for this year's Manatee so far?
121 is the final.
So from 45 to 120.
To 121.
In 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, have you cut off entries, or are you still?
Entries are done at this point.
Entries are
They're
done?
done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty
Hard lock at
substantial.
this point because I've been making. Now I'm doing flightless heats and flights
Of
this year.
course.
So what I'm trying to do is get everybody their assignments. It won't happen until the week of because people will change weight classes, not make weight, want to go down to novice. That's cool, no
No
problem.
shows, whatever.
No shows, of course, but going to say, all right, John,
So,
you're in.
Are you going to do like an AM PM type thing? I have no idea how your structure is on this. Is it going to be AM PM?
We'll be typical event 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order. Everybody's going to run together.
How many lanes?
I believe. So there's one that's up in the air. So 2 are going to have 3 lanes, 2 are going to have 4 lanes, and the one that I'm still configuring, maybe 2, but maybe 3 or 4.
Cool.
It is sort of a issue thing I'm working out with the Raymond James Stadium. Remember what I was just saying about drops and how we could do that at the rodeo fairgrounds? Well, this is not just Raymond James, but the NFL that I am up against. So I have to make sure that field stays pristine.
We were talking earlier, too, before you got here, just talking about stuff we were going to talk about, with you. And I was like, I guarantee you the stadium is not going to play around on time. Like I would think they were going to be pretty strict on.
Here's the good news: is that I'm definitely going to run faster than CrossFit, no question.
Yeah.
We could run slow as molasses, and we'll still beat CrossFit.
So they'll be out there a long time then.
They're telling me
they have a lot of people. I know
they probably have over 1,000 people. This is a huge CrossFit event, so
I've heard of it before.
People can say, "Wow, how did Steve do that?" I didn't do it. I got invited along to the party.
Sure.
This doesn't happen without them.
Right. But also, I mean, right place, right time, or whatever it is.
Correct. And I've done a good job at the expo the last couple of years. This invite wasn't out of nowhere. I've delivered at Beast of the Bay the last 3 years now. So,
right.
I did respectfully earn the opportunity to get this.
Sure.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, other things that, people have asked me as far as...
don't hold back. I know there's a lot, sure.
About USS, because, I've been in it a long time and, a lot of us have. And they'd be like, well, who, with there being so many comps, however many that are in Florida USS now, I don't know if you have that number. Do you know how many USS comps are in Florida?
No, but 25 plus.
Yeah, a lot. So I've been asked, well, is Steve the one that benefits from this? Do you get money from this? Do you?
Nope.
Okay, because that's a question I've been asked many times.
Nope. This is a non-paid position that I am. I'm an ambassador. I'm available to help people if they have questions. And I typically do end up going to most shows just to be available, judge, help, volunteer, do whatever I can.
Sure.
I would be doing that anyways. So would Will Ramirez, who's my co-chair. That's why he's co-chair, is because he would be at these things no matter what.
Right.
So might as well just have
Will's good people.
An extra badge or something on there for his name. But no, I don't benefit from.
Okay.
Like financially, at least, socially, sure. and I think it's important for me too. This is not the reason I do it, but when I'm promoting a show, I like that people recognize my name and say, "Oh yeah, Steve was at this show helping out." Mm-hmm. I know that he's going to put his best foot forward into this. It's really important to do that.
Well, it does go a long way, and it definitely, network. Everything's networking. Yes. I don't care what you're into, but the fact that you show up for people, they're more apt to show up to help you, or at least they should, for your show. Correct. I mean, the only other question I was wondering is, do you have say on the Florida shows, or is that from Willie, the owner of USS? Like, who approves all the shows? Or is that a joint thing between you guys, or is that strictly you in Florida? Because I don't know how that works.
Fair enough. That's ultimately Willie's say.
Okay.
It's technically supposed to be run through me, but I don't really have any hard, clear authority on that. But I am a stop first if, people should be asking me, hey, is there anything going on this date before they submit it?
Sure.
But to make sure they're kind of spread out equitably.
Right. There's all of these shows, so we should do our best to not run them simultaneously the week after. Sometimes that doesn't work. There's only 52 Saturdays in a year.
Sure.
And only so many of them are during a time when it's not so freaking hot outside.
Right.
So we have to play with many factors, spring break, Christmas, Thanksgiving, it goes on and on and on and on. So there's really only a limited amount of time. So we're trying to, I shouldn't say we, I think it's in everybody's best interest to not try and
step on
somebody else. Correct.
Yeah, step on somebody's toes. Which, I mean, that is a problem here in Florida. There's no doubt about it, from what I've seen. And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. I don't think that's good for anybody when that does happen. It's not good for the promoter, because if the promoter is, trying to bust his ass to give you a good comp, and like if somebody was trying to follow your comp right now a week later, they're probably in trouble.
I feel bad because I got offered this date at a time in between two other posted competitions.
Yeah.
And this was something I had no control. Mm-hmm. April 19th, I had zero control over this date, but there's no way that I'm saying, no, I can't do that.
Right.
So unfortunately, I talked to both these guys, Woody Wood over at Crystal River, Freakstrong. Mm-hmm. He's doing his show the following week, and then Mike at Battle Axe, he's doing his show the previous week.
Right.
So I did talk to both of them. I said, here's the deal. I unfortunately did not pick this date. Like, I really am not trying to step on you. All well and all good. And that's another thing here too, is communication.
Right.
I was about to say, I think it's admirable you reach out to those guys and say, hey, here's the deal.
It's tough. It's tough, but Woody's still going to have a phenomenal show, as is Mike.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. And that's there's more layers to this. So one of the things we have going, right, is the Florida Strongman Club Facebook group, and there's almost 800 people in that group. So if we're thinking about that as a pool for people that might compete in a strongman competition in Florida, if you're a good promoter, you're picking good events, you're making it fun, and you're making it accessible,
right,
then you should be able to draw a pretty good amount of people. Even though I'm drawing 120, if we're looking at that 800-person pool, there's still 680 potential athletes that you could get at yours. So,
true.
While I still agree and am not, we should never step on anybody else's toes. We have a huge community, and if you get it right, yeah, of course,
it's definitely going to happen at some point, which is unfortunate for sure. One thing I wanted to go back to, as far as like, because sometimes I'll look at things wrong and have to come back and really think it's shit, and be like, fuck, I was wrong there. As far as like, who is going to benefit from this? Is Steve making money off this? Is Willie making money off this? But at the end of the day, nothing works without money. It's the truth of it. And I, as a business person, I own a small training facility. I own an apparel company, and I do like to talk about stuff like this with somebody like you, a promoter that works with people on, like somebody small like myself, like an apparel company. Because a lot of these venues, even a lot of local comps now, are wanting, we want $500 for you to set a table up.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, make no mistake about it, everything is about money. The love of the sport, sure. But if anybody thinks that, somebody like me is going to go and lose money every time for the love of the sport, you got to be out of your mind.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of that happen in powerlifting personally. Thankfully, I've worked with a lot of great people in powerlifting as well. Rich Fica, great to us.
Yes.
Always been very good to my whole crew. Me as a vendor, very fair. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you being fair with me. And I've tried to return some favor whenever I can, whether it's loaning you equipment, whatever I can do. But I think a lot of people need to look at it to bring more money into the sport, which is what these guys will say, but it's really to go into a lot of these people's pockets as far as promoters. And I know that for a fact because I've seen it hands down.
Yep.
And I've always been the kind of like, you know, when I promoted, and I promoted for a long time, is I wanted to get as many companies as I could to show up. I thought it was better for the athlete. It looks better on the show.
Yep.
And if it's affordable and it makes sense to people, then they'll come back.
For sure.
But if somebody buys in, and I've seen this so many times, they're like, man, we paid $1,000 to be here, and we lost our ass. And then, as somebody like me, you're talking about fuel, hotels. It's not just whatever.
Time. You're not here working
my
and
whole
training.
weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just not what your fee is. It's like I could stand to lose a lot of money, which
Opportunity cost elsewhere.
absolutely. And it's just like, I hope people take heed to promoters that are doing it correct, in my opinion, to be like, hey, don't be so greedy on the front end of it, because
Yeah.
it's going to blow up in your face. And now
It's how
I've,
you approach it. Really, my number one goal is truly to make this as great of an event as possible. It's always my goal that the athletes want to come back.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing above everything else. Is I want every person that leaves my competition to say, I want to come back to the next one.
right.
So there's all the things you were saying is how can we make sure the combination of all the different things going into this, how does that happen? And
Yep.
that's what's most important.
Right.
Will and I have talked about that at length, Will Ramirez, about, when you put on a contest as a promoter, everything should be for the benefit of the athlete, to give them the best experience possible so they do come back year after year. Even if there are different contests to choose from, they come back to yours because they had the best experience possible.
Right.
Whether you're the promoter or the guy running the floor or the volunteers, when I help out at Allen's contest, I tell everybody, hey, make sure these athletes have the best experience they can get so they do come back next year.
Right.
And everything. But to your point with the booths, I think it'd be better if you had 5 to 10 booths out there instead of 0.
Right. And the fact is, people when they are a part of like a something big like you're going to have, people do want to remember stuff from that. You know what I mean? Let's say the people that if they don't, and we can even get as far as in the competitor shirts are very important for people, because now people are they're charging way higher numbers for signups now, and now we're starting to see this a lot in powerlifting and strongman now, where especially powerlifting, to where now that doesn't even include your shirt. Are you out of your mind? Like,
Wow.
we've seen this many
I
times,
know. Yes,
many
many
times.
times.
And I'm
It's
talking about
unfortunate.
signups that are $175, $200, which I have a big group of guys. We powerlift, we strongman. So I see all this. I'm not talking, out of air. It's like, and then it's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna have to buy my shirt. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Then on top of that, travel, hotel, food.
Sure.
Opportunity cost
Yes.
again for
Yeah,
work and this
exactly.
and that.
Yeah, nothing is cheap, man. Like
I know.
nothing. And
Well, talk about shirts. I, for the first time, am doing everybody's name on the back of their shirts.
Another cost.
Oh man,
Yeah, that hurts.
that was a lot more than
Hit
I
the pocket.
expected it to be.
Sure.
It's okay. It's okay, but I just understand now. It's okay, but that
well, being in
that's
this
pricey,
business,
but-
for me, I can tell you that it's very time consuming. Everybody's name, individual name, to
getting
be
it on the right size.
on the right size, which
Yep.
you're going to have one or two that's probably going to be like, shit. It's very, very time consuming.
But
Yeah.
there again, the athlete's going to remember that.
And the athletes
And that's going to be
appreciate
part of their experience.
Yes.
And I also, every year I get it's the next level brand, the nice shirts that people look good. It feels
Absolutely.
their shirts really,
Absolutely.
it feels,
Material's good, yeah.
their muscles look good in it, their shoulders, their chest, their traps look good in it. And I get that on purpose because it feels good, looks good, and people are going to continue to wear it. It's now been 5 years since I've had these competitions. I see my shirts all the time.
Well, now
in
it's free
training
advertising
videos.
for the next 5 years.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But, so it's just, right.
Well, you went 145 to 120, so obviously you're doing something right, as far as getting
I
them to
think
come
so.
back.
I think so, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what I think.
So,
Right. I mean, like I said, things are going to evolve. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what we're going through now. And when I look back, I'm definitely guilty of this. To where, when I got into it long ago, everybody knew it was a monopoly, and people were kind of pissed from that. They're like, dude, we have no real say in this. We have no options. And now that there are options, myself,
there are too many options.
I've bitched about it too, dude. I'm definitely, I'm like, what the fuck, man? What's going on here now?
Yep.
But it's like you said, it's the growing pains. I mean, there's definitely some promoters that I absolutely do not like, and they probably don't like me too, and that's fine. And I think at the end of the day,
guess what? You probably have more promoters that you do like now, though, right?
Dude, there's a lot of good people in this sport for sure, and I've met a lot of good people, doing nationals and at any level. You always meet good people, and it's definitely has changed. Stuff's different now, but what do you see moving forward? Like, what do you think is the next step to keep growing it? How do you get more asses in the seats? Because if I'm talking about somebody like Lynn, who we've set up with, Lynn is a great guy, one of the nicest guys. I don't know what your opinion or what your dealings with Lynn. I've always had very good dealings with him.
Every experience has been positive with Lynn.
He's just a great guy, and especially like when we vended with him, the guy treats you like a king, man. He really does, like just world class. But when you go there, it doesn't matter what he's charging for a vendor. If I made, like, it's in Arlington, Texas this year.
Is it really?
It is in Arlington. Yeah, did you not know that?
Can I swear on this? No, I did not.
It's in Arlington. So, can
you say where? Can you know exactly where?
I can look it up because I get an email because I've set up with him before.
You need to tell me off air. You know where I'm from?
Sure. No.
Arlington,
you are
Texas.
from Arlington.
Oh my
It's
God.
in Arlington, dude.
I'm freaking out, dude. I'm getting goosebumps, dude. No way.
Can
We can pause or something if we can't say this on air. We can come back.
No, we'll see if we can look it up right now.
Is it going to be on?
No,
I don't know.
No way it's on there.
No,
yet.
go
no
to.
No way, dude. No way.
I'm almost 99% sure. Let me look up. Let me look up the email.
What's it called?
OSG.
It's. I've been looking pretty regularly. It's definitely not online yet because it just says week before Thanksgiving.
I don't know if I was supposed to say that or not. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, well,
because I got the
cut
email.
this section out.
I got the email.
Well, don't say it, but if you do, show it to me.
I'm sure if I know. Listen, I'm not the only person that got this.
Okay. Anyways, Arlington, Texas, guys. Well, it doesn't say where yet. Doesn't say where, but that's it.
It does say it in there.
That's when, not where. So at the top of the page, it said location to be announced. But this year, OSG, the week before Thanksgiving, so my wife is very stoked that I don't have to cut weight while she cooks a big Thanksgiving dinner. No way, dude. No way. Oh, it's over.
You want me to edit that out?
I don't know.
We got veered off course. Let's get back to talking about vendors. Lynn.
College Park Center.
No, dude, no way. That's like 1.5 miles from where I'm born. Dude, no way. Are you kidding me? At UTA? Get out, dude.
Yeah. I'll shoot.
Get out, dude. That's like my neighborhood. That's like my neighborhood where I'm from.
Well, I'll shoot him a text and make sure
my
it's okay. People know.
Right in your backyard.
Yeah.
It is literally in my backyard. It'd be a 15-20 minute walk from my old home.
Yeah.
Home.
That's crazy.
Get out, man. Okay.
That's funny.
Whoa. Thank you, man. That is amazing news. That makes me so happy.
You might get a phone call tomorrow.
Yeah. Son of a bitch.
Stupid.
We didn't even know it was really going to be there yet.
Man, well, hey. Events, and as they say with events, always subject to change. Not just the lifts themselves, but the actual event.
Well, where I was going with that is like,
of course.
For yeah, that's all right. But for anybody, to go to these comps, it's very expensive.
It is pricey.
Whether it's an athlete, because what was OSG last year? You competed last year at OSG.
$250 maybe for registration.
For just registration.
Forget flights, Airbnb, food, hotel, car rental.
What would you say? I usually assume $2,500, $3,000, depending if you have your wife, your girlfriend going with you. Everybody's eating out every meal. It's like every time we went to the Arnold, $2,500 trip, easy.
Oh yeah.
Because you're talking about
creature of habit, man. I do. I get a house with a kitchen, meal prep, the whole thing, and I've been lucky the last couple times I've gone in on a house with a few other people, so that's been a little more affordable. Get my own room.
Yeah,
I have to have a kitchen, man. I refuse to eat out, and I think that's honestly, no offense, is what you're doing. I think it's amateur hour to, if you have the control to eat exactly what you eat normally in training, and you can set that up perfectly for yourself. Why would you not?
Yeah.
Saw somebody that was eating concession stand food the day before
Oh, of
OSG
course.
this year, and they did terrible. They did terrible. They made mistakes. They underperformed.
Right.
They're also a head case of an individual, but that's a separate issue. But
Right.
why would you do that?
Well, and a lot of people don't think it through. You know what I mean? Refeeds. Especially as a weight class athlete, which we are. I've had hellacious cuts. I'm sure you have
Yeah.
too. I don't know how bad your cuts have been.
I've gotten better recently, but I was coming down from my biggest one for OSG regionals. I went from 194 to 176.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
that's
typical-
11.5%.
And anything over 5 is not the safest. And I usually do a 10%, which is, who knows the longevity of the cuts? What it's doing
Right.
to your kidneys and health fail. Who knows?
Shout out to my nutritionist. We did it from 187 this year. That was a lot easier. It's very mentally daunting when you're starting in the 190s and you
Sure.
get into the 180s and you still think, oh,
You
I have
got
to
a
get into
long way to go, Bubba.
170s.
Yeah.
I'm just getting started. Oh no.
Yeah, and that's kind of my approach now. Like, especially getting older, I'm going to try to get closer. You know what I mean? I don't want to do. Can I do them? Sure, I can. I've been doing them for over 20 years.
Yep.
But I don't want to do it anymore. As far as big 20, 22-pound cuts,
No way.
which has been very common for me. But anyway, getting back to it, it's like everything's very expensive, and I see it from all angles. As far as a competitor. I have been a promoter. I would like to promote again, and I will promote again. Right now, I'm just having a hard time. Is when the hell am I going to put my comp?
Right.
Where do I put it in 35 comps? In Florida, it's pretty. I was actually going to bring it back this year because we used to put on Central Florida Strongman, me and Scott Weech, and we want to bring it back. But now it's just a question because I don't want to step on people's toes. You know what I mean? Like that hurts everybody. Like I said, going back to. And some people are like, well, I don't think it does. Well, it does, because even as a sponsor, like I will be at your place set up, Vanilla Girl Strength Athletics. Come see us at that booth.
Vanilla Grace.
208.
Yeah, 208 at Raymond James Stadium.
208.
Come
yeah.
check it out.
Don't worry about that plug. But
August 19th,
but
2025.
I will be at Mike's the week before.
Right.
So it's hard on us, as far as trying to. And I told you, I had a conversation with you in Tallahassee a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm going to show up for people that I believe in. And, the guys that are in it for the right reasons and that are building the sport, I'm going to show up, and we're going to do what we can. And if we make money, great. That's the goal. I can tell you that. It's never the goal to show up and get smoked in a comp, which it doesn't really happen for us a lot. But I'm very selective. If somebody tells me, oh, we want X amount for it, and it doesn't make sense to me,
Then nope, sorry, it's not the
I
match.
can't show up just out of the love of the sport. That doesn't pay my bills, and it's not good for anyone. You
Right.
know what I mean? And I think some people, they look at it as far as like some sponsorship type things, like, oh, well, that guy's not showing up anymore. But there's probably a reason. You know what I mean? Did you go and buy anything from them? Did you? And I'm not saying this because vendor, but it is important to support the people that are supporting the sport.
Of course.
Like it
Support who
'cause-
supports you.
yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to grow. And I think, a lot of the high-level shows have struggled with that. If you look at OSG, like, it pulls some of the best athletes in the world, bar none. It does that, but it doesn't put a lot of asses in the seats.
Correct.
Which I'm not sure why that is. Was it an American thing? Like you said, you look at Europe Strongest Man has always sold out. That comp has been, Giants Live kills it. So what is going on? Is it a cultural
It's
thing?
tough.
Which I think it's a cultural
Tough
thing
for
too.
a $50 single day or $100 3-day ticket for a casual. That's a tough sell.
Well, dude, we went to World's Strongest Man. Was it last year when it was in South Carolina?
Yeah. I remember I was watching your live stream on Instagram.
Very, very expensive.
Yep.
And it's went up even more.
Oh wow.
So because it's in California this year, and I looked up tickets, and I was
Back
like,
in Sacramento, that's right.
yeah. So I'm looking at airfare. I was able. Did we drive? Yeah, we drove.
Gas over there too if you get a car.
Oh, yeah. So you're looking at everything is just almost. And people listen. They should have been doing that many years ago.
For sure.
Did you go when it was down south when it was in Bradenton? Were you in Florida?
No,
then?
I actually didn't. The 2020, I was not here yet. In
Okay.
2021,
It was
there was
two-
a big storm.
It was 2019 though, right? Or was that 20?
Oh, no, you're correct.
2019.
19 wasn't here yet. 2020, there was a
2020.
big storm. They were going to have some on the beach.
That's right.
And then they moved it to
IMG Academy.
IMG.
Yeah, because
Bummer.
even down then, like you could tell, like if they had anything to sell vendor wise, dude, they would have killed it. They had nothing. No shirts, no nothing. So, fast forward to this past year when we go to South Carolina, they have everything for sale, and they are killing it. They filled up the seats.
Oh, yeah.
It should have been done a long time ago. But now I wonder, like, is this going to just be for elite people to go to? Because that's not really who does this sport. It's not, a bunch of multimillionaires that are doing this sport. Are they going to price themselves
out?
That's
the pinnacle. It is a spectacle.
It for sure it is.
But back to circling all the way back, let's think about the Shaw, right? Again, the Shaw has that,
yes.
But they also have another 80 amateur people competing. So you have a mix of all sorts of things, and that automatically is going to draw every type of fan. That's going to draw the people that only care about half Thor, and that's it. And it's also going to draw people that love strongman because they get to see all of this stuff now.
Well, I think I don't want to say it's a problem in strongman. It's the reality of strongman and the marketability of strongman in weight classes. I've seen some of the most athletes that I've ever seen in my life that I know that are 231ers, but the average person could care less.
The weight class guys, if marketed correctly, would be megastars. Some of them, it's really amazing what the 80s, the 90s, and 105s can do.
Sure.
105s had that clash spot on ESPN a few years ago.
Yeah. A couple of years, I think they did that. I think they were on ESPN 2 years, I think. Furman, when he was running it, those guys like Furman used to be, he trained with us some. We trained with Furman a little bit back in the day. And guys like that, I respect the hell out of what they're trying to do, or what they were trying to do. I don't even know if it's still around like that anymore.
We had briefly, so Clash turned into Pro Strongman League.
Right.
That's it now. So we were talking about what's next, like where's Strongman going, and I think that there's a chance for this thing to get, I don't know if it's ever going to go completely mainstream, but it's growing so fast and so quick that there's going to be somebody or some people that will figure out how to market this really, really, really big.
And I hope so. You know what I mean? Like, going back to Shaw, he's definitely doing something right. Excuse me, as far as moving it forward. And from what I hear, he did try to go out of his way for the athletes, from what I hear, a little far and beyond, which is great. You know what I mean? Because I think we've gotten away from that too.
Hotel, their food, all of that was covered.
Yeah. Which if you're an absolute, elite athlete, then that's the way it should be. I think, and it hasn't really been like that except for probably World's Strongest Man. I know that they cover some stuff like that.
Rogue Invitational does now too. They have the highest payout as well for any strongman comp.
Yeah, did you see? I don't know if you saw. Hooper was talking about how much you could win if you won all the big comps. It was like 650,000, 750, something like that.
That's if you go 4 for 4.
Yeah, that's winning them all, which he has done. But I mean that's a unicorn, dude. You know what I mean? So
There's only one Mitch Hooper.
Yeah, and to get more people in seats. It'll be interesting to see how it works, and the marketability of it is, I think, a problem in some of it. And that's a whole different topic, you know what I mean? But there are problems in the marketing of it, probably for different reasons. I'd probably get that to another podcast.
That could be a whole other episode. I think
that's a whole different.
Sure.
That's a whole different animal, and it's kind of one of those things where you got to watch what you say when you're talking about it. You know what I mean? But anyway. I don't know, where this is going as far as how we get more people in, but it's going to happen at some point. It has to. And like I said, when you going back to Europe's and stuff like that, you see how do they do this? Like they fill up like a 15,000 person like it's nothing.
Pretty cool. Cool.
I would love this. I would love to see it.
It's slowly coming along. One of the biggest things that's of benefit is accessibility to equipment, right? If you used to see Atlas Stones, it would be on TV only. When we had Atlas Stones at Metroflex back when I was in high school, I did not see them at another gym. I went to many gyms, all around the area, and I did not see them anywhere. Now I could name you 20 off the top of my head that have got a full set of Atlas Stones. Sure. Not just one or two, a full set. How many people have a log now? There are crunch gyms that have multiple logs.
Right.
So that's what's really, really big time. So powerlifting benefited a lot from the growth of CrossFit because CrossFit got barbells into the hands of so many people.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons powerlifting had such a big boom in the late 2000s.
Well, I remember CrossFit a few years ago, they had a max effort deadlift. Like
Awesome.
you know what I
They
mean?
did max
Like,
effort log a couple years ago.
Yeah. So that
They do yokes more regularly.
Sandbag to
Sandbags.
shoulder.
They did sandbag to shoulder. So it's accessibility is happening so rapidly that it, as I said, it's nobody's figured it out yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
Just look at the numbers of how many people participate in this thing. You know, it's coming.
I think another thing with that too, the growth of it is the importance of the gyms that are doing it. We talked about this with a couple other guests too, and it's sad because you have people that are in this for the right reasons, but the money isn't there yet. And it's very hard to keep like a niche gym, powerlifting, strongman. I can tell you that out of experience. I know very well the money that's lost through this place because it's not quite there. You know what I mean? So, and the reason I say that is it's very important for people that are getting into it. Like, there's something to be said about loyalty when it comes to training groups and, you know, your crew. You know what I mean? And does it make a big difference? In my opinion, hell yes it does, because I was fortunate enough to train with definitely some of the best in Florida at that time for sure. And some of the guys are still around, still getting it. You know what I mean? So I think that's something moving on, like people build their own cultures, which I do see happening. And I think it's important to move the sport along, because the more people you can build into your community and your culture, the more of these gyms will survive.
Yep.
If that makes sense. And it's very important, and it probably doesn't seem, if people have multiple gyms or strongman, you know, cliques that they can go to that are close to them, they're very lucky. Because a lot of people, that's not an option. You know what I mean? So if you know, you just go and do your accessories and all that bullshit at Crunch or whatever, not to throw anybody under the bus, but a commercial gym, let's say, and then you only go there and do a day pass here and there, you're killing these people. You know what I mean? You're killing these guys. And I know damn well you can, where you're from, powerlifting gyms hitting the dirt. I've seen a bunch of them, as well as we have here too. So it's just something that I think about, like, you know, really trying to build your own culture and community within your place and supporting it, and however you can is the only way these places are going to stay. And that in turn helps build the sport. You know what I mean?
100%.
Bigger training days on the weekends, and you know, we like to travel around, and you know, we support other strongman gyms as well. And it's always fun to do that anyway. You get in there with a big group of people, you learn from other people, which I definitely think the sport still has a lot of that camaraderie, where even if it's a guy that you're competing against, you don't mind teaching him something, and he'll teach you something. So
I want to compete against my competitors when they're at their best. It's not worth
It's
not worth a damn if they're terrible. What good is that for me if I go in and you know, beat a bunch of third graders? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to compete against the best in the entire world. Like, I want you to be you know, I want you to be your best.
You've earned it at that point.
Yeah.
You've earned
and
it.
If you beat me, congratulations. You earned it. Correct.
Right.
And if I beat you, respectfully, I earned it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Congratulate me.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's the way it should be. And you know, I think that's still alive a lot in the sport. It's definitely, that's changed as well a little bit with social media, I think. You know, a lot of excuses and bullshits and all this and that, but at the end of the day,
people worry and focus on the wrong things.
100%.
Such is life.
Yeah.
Never end. That'll never
For sure.
end.
But yeah, I mean, anything going forward you want to talk about? Like anything else you want to put out there?
Well, a few things on World's Strongest Manatee. I know we got a few questions that you know, we could wrap into.
Sure.
You know, the things that I really like to say, we've kind of hit this on the head, but if you really enjoy anything strongman, whether you go to a competition and loved it, even if you just were a spectator, the best thing you can do is really tell your friends and invite them to the next one. Word of mouth is still king as far as getting more growth to anything, whether it's your business, an entertainment thing you're interested in. What, you know, how do people learn about their favorite Netflix show? Oh, my friend told me about this one.
Sure.
It's the same for strongman.
Can I ask you a question as far as a promoter? Something else that has changed over the last few years is back in the day, and I understand this is the evolution as well. You never saw entry fees on a local comp, and now you're starting to see them. Is that something you agree with, or is that dependent on
no entry fees on a local comp?
No. I'm sorry. For spectator fees. I'm sorry. Spectator fees.
Well, that's where a lot of income is made for promoters. You know,
Sure.
When I was running these shows that were at the Manatee County Fairgrounds, the only profit I made was spectator tickets and
Okay.
parking. That was it. So, just think about what that may mean
Sure.
for me, where I don't get any of the spectator tickets or parking for
Well-
World's Strongest Manatee. Just that's that. So I do think it's fair as long as you are putting on a show, right? Like, how much do you pay to go to the movies and be entertained for 2 hours? Are you getting entertained, or do you feel like you got ripped off as you're walking out of there? And that brings us back to the point of some of these shows that you go and want to see your friend, and then they 0 3 out of 5 events. You're leaving with a bad taste in your mouth. You're saying, why does that guy waste all his time
Right.
just to not lift anything? Like, so it's making it worthwhile. What is the value that you're getting out of it? If you're charging an arm and a leg, again, for the casuals, I was trying to tell people both years that I went to OSG, was telling people, oh yeah, it's down at the convention center this weekend. It's one of the biggest shows in the
Expensive,
entire world in strongman.
Expensive.
And I didn't want to tell them, oh yeah, by the way, it's $100. Because they're
Sure.
like, oh, that sounds cool. I might check it out. If it's $20, I'm walking, if I had the same level, any sort of like niche sport that I'm not really interested in, I've gone to plenty of them. I'll go for $20. Heck yeah, sounds pretty cool. I could.
Do you think that's some of the issue with like the bigger shows is like even like an OSG is just charging too much for a spectator?
I do think that you're going to get a much bigger audience with a much lower ticket price.
I could agree with that too. Or people aren't quite sure. They're going to be willing to like, man, it's $20 or $25 even. I can gamble that.
Yeah, whatever.
If it sucks, I can afford to lose
They
that.
say, so what? Chop chop. It's $20.
And that's the same thing. I look at the same way with like, like I said with the vendor stuff. I would rather have more people in at a less price and give people more. You know what I mean? Accessibility to more. So same thing with the ticket price. If it's a local comp, I can't see much more. This is me talking, like my opinion. I think $10 is fair for a local comp.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think that's fair. Anything above that is kind of like, because now if you got a guy that's got 2 kids, it's $15 a person to get in. Well, that's $45, and the kid, it's going to get expensive quick. So I think it's fair at that level. Now the higher levels, obviously, yes, but you can get too high, like we've seen.
An expo.
Sure. And I think that's how you get away with a lot of
Wad
it.
Wars is, I think it's $17 for entry. It comes out to $20 after the fee, so it's even there. But how many vendors are there? You have 4 gigantic sports going on.
Smart.
There's classes going on that you can participate in.
And so that's what the tickets are to get into that?
I believe they're $20, yeah.
That's, to me, that's smart as hell.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got a huge place that you can put a lot of asses in the seat, and that's affordable for, I would say, almost anyone. I think that's fair to say as far as going to a sport. You're not going to go to a football game for that. You're not going to touch,
No way.
A hockey game for that. You're not going to touch anything for that.
Listen, they do
to
tours.
me, that's very smart.
They do tours of certain NFL stadiums for $30 where you get to go on the field. Guess what? You get to also go on the field at Raymond James, included in your ticket. You don't really just get the chance to do that all the time. That's a really big value proposition there, in my opinion.
That's definitely a big deal. And as far as, as far as that, your comp going, you've got a lot to live up to as well. You've got a lot of people coming, and people are going to want to. I think we got a question about, how are you going to run this thing efficiently with that many people, which I know I've promoted, so I know what goes into it as far as scoring, and a lot of people don't understand.
There's a lot on the
scribes
back end
that you
they
need.
don't get.
People that are scribing, that are runners to run it to the scoring. Do you guys have a live feed as well on this?
We have a live stream.
Who's doing your live stream?
Chuck Ellison with Ellison Fitness Innovations.
Okay, awesome.
They do a great job. They did Beast of the Bay last year.
How much that is by chance? What that costs?
Live stream's free.
It is a free live stream
for viewers, not free for me, but it is
right.
It is free to view. It's going to be on YouTube. So
see, even that makes sense to me.
Sure.
That's another thing that I saw that I was like, I don't get this, man. To where, people, some of the live streams are like $30, $50. I'm like, what? Like
sometimes they're very candid though. Chaos sometimes will say explicitly, this is the portion that is going to the athlete pot. So then in that circumstance, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, cool. I am more incentivized
Excuse me.
to pitch into this now.
I understand that as well, but the average person could give a shit where that money is going. They just know what's coming out of their pocket.
I agree.
And you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I think people have got to really look at, because at the end, if it's crazy, the only thing I can think of is like, man, it's just greed. You know what I mean? If I go somewhere and they're like, oh, it's going to be $100 for you to watch this, it's like, holy shit, dude. Like,
or trial and error. It's great if it continues to happen that way.
Right.
I think it's adapting to change, because when we were coming up, you got in for free. Spectators got in for free, whether it's powerlifting, strongman. So for me, you know, when they start charging this to spectate to watch, I'm like, you know, for me, it's just adapting to change.
Sure.
Which I don't know if a lot of people are like that or not, but it's becoming more mainstream where they are starting to charge $5 or $10 to
100%. And I understand that. I understand that. What I didn't understand with some of the powerlifting stuff that we were dealing with is however much it would be for, let's say, for me to put up a booth. And then, so that cost went up, like doubled to tripled on some of these people I was dealing with. And then the cost for my athletes to sign up went from $100 to $175. And now the shirts aren't included, and this isn't included.
Without much to clearly add on, you know. So I've increased my prices, but I've tried to be transparent about this is what you're getting with this.
Right.
Well, a lot of what would be said is like, well, this is going to the athlete winning pot.
Most people don't care, and
most
people have zero shot at winning that. That is just facts of the matter. That's facts of the matter.
My point. That is my point. So
I hate to say it, because I am somebody
100%.
who is completely behind. Like, I want to try to figure out how to get athletes paid, but you know, this is something that people that are really in the sport understand, is that if you are somebody that's going out there and saying, hey, I'm giving out $5,000 in cash, you know, you're really just signaling, you're throwing the bat signal up to the biggest, baddest dudes around to come whoop up on everybody. Like when you get, you know, a world strongest man competitor comes to a local comp to beat up on everybody to win cash. That's what ends up happening when you like do things like that. So it just goes to show you, when some people, you know, don't know the sport and are trying to put on a strongman competition, when they do those sorts of things, it's a clear sign that they don't know what they're doing, and that's as negative as I'm going to get for the rest of the podcast. But
well, I think there's truth in that, and I think the other thing a lot of people have gotten away from, as far as like some of your you know, local comps, or you know, any kind of meet that you do, because I remember. And it's not, you know, not to harp on this shit, but you used to get like, you know, grab bags with shit.
Yep.
With just simple stuff that means a lot to people if they're not going to be a front runner. If it's a guy's first novice comp, and you know, or even if they win a novice comp, or any let's say any class there is, and they get a badass trophy. I've seen that a lot, where people have definitely skimped on that, where you're getting a literally a 50 cent, you know, thing. And
plastic.
I get nice thick medals for thick heavy medals for second and third, and I got new, you know, they're big cup trophies. They're about 1.5 feet tall,
and that makes
a marble base. They've got a nice inscription on them.
That makes a difference, you know, to a lot of amateur people.
Sure.
You know, Alan's always been very good with that. For an Iron House, Alan's always put on, you know, Mike does as well. Battle Axe, they go out of the way to do something different. And to me, that still means a lot, especially for people that are coming up. Man, that's shit that's going to be in their trophy case for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? They can be like, man, I remember when I was here, and you know, my kids were there, whatever. So a lot of people have gotten away from that. Like, the prices have went up, and it seems like some people are putting less out.
Yeah,
it's less out. You know what I mean? You're getting like some piece of shit plastic, you know, Amazon metal. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, if you can't afford to do it, then you're doing something wrong. To my point, let more sponsors in at a lower price, and that's free money to you. It's costing you nothing. It's free money. It's help. It's, you know, bring the shit along, man. Stop being greedy. And that's what I see a lot, as far as like some of these prices going way up, and there's just nothing given back. You know what I mean? I don't agree with that at all. What is it?
You just reminded me of a promoter of a contest long time ago. As soon as I say this, you'll remember it. But they pulled old trophies out of their closet.
I know exactly.
Oh, no way.
A regifting, if you will.
Regifting. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I absolutely do.
As soon as you talked about it, it just hit me. I was like, I remember there was a guy we know, long-time powerlifter, and he had a contest he put on years and years back, what 15, 20 years ago maybe?
It's been a long time, yeah.
And he confessed, he said he just grabbed old trophies that he had won out of his closet to give away.
Classic. I've never seen that one. I've been to plenty of shows, and I've not seen that before.
So
I had forgotten about that, but you just...
Are you going to drag any of your old ones out?
Maybe
Steve's like, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
I've got a couple. Well, I have a few, you know, when I had classes that people didn't show up. I have a few old second and third medals around. I might,
See,
for a gag
There
or
you go.
something, toss one of those around.
That's
but
funny.
no,
You
no,
remember
no,
that,
no.
though?
Oh, I
That's
remember
hilarious,
exactly what you're
dude.
talking about. And you remember, but Alan did it. I think it was it the Orlando comp where everybody got participation?
Yeah, those little plastic
Gave them
ribbons.
to everybody. It was actually
funny.
pretty funny. Dude.
It was just- yeah.
Everybody got one, so it was
That
pretty
hilarious.
funny.
We do have a few questions that were sent in. If you
Sure.
want to get to those,
Yep.
Sean Fenley, we put out. If anybody has any questions for you, mainly participating or for the manatee coming up. But Sean Fenley sent in about 6 questions. Thank you, Sean, for participating.
away.
First one is this the first strongman event in an NFL stadium?
As far as I know, I looked and looked and looked to.
That's a good question. Yeah.
As far as I know,
Interesting.
yes, I'm open to being proven wrong, but I looked all over the place. I could not find another one.
Wow.
I don't recall ever.
I never even thought about
First ever strongman competition
So,
in an
okay.
NFL stadium and on the field
on the field.
on Bermuda grass. I think what I was looking it up. T 91,100 Bermuda grass.
That's the same thing I
Nice.
have in my yard.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Same vendor.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Right.
Not really, but go ahead.
Dolphins have that too.
His next question is, how will you run so many athletes in an organized manner? So you have 120 athletes. You kind of touched on
Briefly
this
touched
earlier.
on that. So one event is there's a couple different options, but at minimum, that one event may have 2 lanes. It might have 3. It might have 4. Just working on some field specifications on that. I'm not going to say which one, but then 2 more 3 at a time, 3 lane events, and then 2 4-lane events.
So behind the scenes of that, though, a lot of help as far as loaders, spotters,
Oh yeah,
movers. I mean, you
judge at each station. There will be one scorekeeper, so we're going to run all the lanes simultaneously. So there will be, everybody 1 through 4 will do their thing, and then it'll be checked in. Scorekeeper will check with the scribe and judge here. Scorekeeper check in with scribe and judge here. They will just go down the line and ask like score. Okay, everybody else line up. Let's go.
Do you use a certain scoring app, or is it something you guys just do old school? Because we always kind of did it old school.
Yes. So it will eventually get transcribed to Iron Podium, but it is going to be on a custom spreadsheet that we have where every score for the whole event is going to get recorded. And then it's going to go to, we'll have a separate scorers table where after the entire event is done, everything will get put in.
Okay.
And it's
that
all on Google Drive. So, I mean, it's not like you have to transfer it right away. That person could, in theory, start putting in scores right away once the scorekeeper.
So a question
actually
I
putting them in.
have a question for you on that tiebreaker.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I actually just
Good
came
question.
up with the potential tiebreaker last week. So we're going to come up with 4 options for a tiebreaker, and it is
Okay.
going to be voted on by
Oh,
the
wow.
viewers of the live stream.
Nice. Very
I like
nice.
that.
Yep. So we're still deciding what it's going to be, but it'll be some mix of the equipment that we have already. I can tell you sandbag max distance front carry is one of the options.
God, disgusting.
Oh, I know. So it will be voted on by the viewers of the live stream. So I'm not going to have a hand in that whatsoever, but we will be ready
Cool.
for whatever that is. Yeah, I thought that was pretty fun.
Interactive, so that's cool.
Shout
Yeah.
out to Chuck Ellison that was a great idea. He sent me that last night. I said, yes, sir. That is awesome.
Yeah,
Good
good
idea.
idea for sure.
Good idea.
It's fair because I can't. There's.
You got to be
people-
prepared just in case.
Oh yeah. But
There's a
sometimes
million
people
different things
say
you could do.
bias,
Yeah.
this and that. That event biases
Yeah.
this person. Hey, it's
Yeah.
not up to me. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, true.
It's true.
Right.
Next question. Has there been a show this large in Florida?
You guys have been around Florida longer than me. I don't think so. 121.
So I would say he's referring to local, like Strawman Corp, USS shows, not like your OSGs
Not like
or something.
OSG.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
just
a
your-
different breed.
right.
World's Strongest Man, of course.
Right. But just your local shows like this,
It would have to be right up top 2 to 3 for
I'd
sure.
say I don't recall a local.
I think I can remember.
Donnie, Tampa Bay had 100 people in
I've
2020.
I remember there being a couple comps that were capped at 100 and sold out. So even with that being said, then yours would have been probably the most. Signed up for sure.
Cool.
I think so. I again spent a lot of time trying to look into that, and I couldn't be proven wrong. Even that interesting one-off, the Ragnarok games, did not have 121 people.
No, it was
Whatever
said to have
that
a lot.
was.
It was said to have a lot more that was coming to that. That did not. That did not happen.
That's a whole separate issue. Anyways,
Yes. Moving on.
moving on.
Next question. Sean wants to know what type of strongman movements are best to increase athlete speed, in your opinion.
What type of strongman movements are best to increase athlete speed? One, I think that you should do just straight up sprinting work. You should work on your general foot speed.
Sled sprints, any kind of sprint.
Sprint with your own body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just regular sprints.
And then if you want to increase speed on your strongman movements, you need to be very specific about working at pretty light percentages with those implements. And I mean, this can be as light as 20%, right? You know, your movement fundamentally changes. Let's say a yoke, for example, if you're doing an 80% yoke and a 40% yoke. You know, the way that your gait is going to move, it's just going to be completely different. I think that's where a lot of people have problems, is that they only train in those upper percentages because they're chasing the heavy strength numbers. So that would be my response to that, is just general sprinting with your body. That's it. And then if you have movements coming up in competitions, like gradually work up to the heavy weights, or my favorite technique is to alternate light and heavy weeks. So you get some exposure to, let's say yoke again, a heavy yoke. Maybe you could do an overload and 1 to 2 heavy top sets. And then the following week, or even 2 weeks later, to rest your nervous system, then you're going to do 50 to 60% speed work. So you can get a lot of experience and time on the yoke, but you're training all the different elements that you might need.
Right. Good answer.
Sure.
I like that. What is the largest weight cut you have seen? So I don't know if he means you personally or just your clients
that I've
your
seen,
athletes.
I know that some of those 105 guys, they come down like 35 pounds.
Easily.
You know, they go from 270 to 235 or so. It's nuts. So that
Dave Dial, however you say his name. I was around him one year, and he had cut from it was like 271 to 231.
Now, these are all 24-hour weigh-ins.
And not to mention, dude, when he was 270, he still looked lean and huge.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm like, where's this weight coming from? Like,
remember, muscles carry more water than fat, though. So if you are somebody that wants to do a weight cut, it is in your best interest to be as muscular as possible. Just a general that. But largest weight cuts, all those guys that are at the very top level of 105 are doing monstrous cuts.
Very, very big. What's his name? Oh, God. Sean. He's one of the best 105ers ever. I think he won America's 4 times, I believe. I'll think of his last name. But he would walk around sometimes 280, and he's like shorter than me.
Man, some of the 80 guys walk around at like 210 in the offseason. That's wild.
It's getting crazy, man. Wow. I think we talked about this before. Like, if you go to a big national or world event, you really can't tell who's in what division the day of. You're just looking around. It's like, is that guy
got
one?
The gaunt, ghastly face.
Yeah, everybody's just bloated, and ready to go. You're like, is that guy a 200 or is he a 231? Yeah. What is that? You don't know.
I don't want to name names, but just a side story on this. I'm not going to leave this up to you. You can guess what class and gender, but there's one individual that was walking around that has won multiple OSGs, and I heard this individual saying when they were in line to weigh in that they could not see. Their weight cut had gone so extreme. They were in a bad shape, and guess what? This person won.
So whoever's in charge of that refeed,
I'll tell you off air, but
whoever's in charge of that refeed is a master, dude. So just to get that back in is insane.
I don't know what the amount was for that, but that's the most extreme I have ever seen. I also saw one year. I felt bad because I thought it was, I thought it was like a mentally handicapped person who was being guided into the weigh-ins at OSG because they had their hand on the shoulder of the person in front of them, and they were doing a little bit of an unstable walk, and I just thought, somebody handicapped person or something or whatever, and then I realized about 20 minutes later I knew who that was. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so and so. Oh my gosh, he looks bad right now.
You remember the extreme weight cuts we would see at the Arnold for the WPO?
Well,
and they had 48-hour weigh-ins.
48-hour weigh-ins. So it was insane.
There was one particular individual. They would wheel in on a wheelchair.
A wheelchair.
And stand him up. Mm-hmm. He was what, 48 or 65?
WPO, awesome.
I think he was a 65er.
I think, 165er.
And he would come in, wheel him in on a wheelchair, stand him up, and I mean, they had to like let him go.
It was insane. Try to get
weight, and then sit him back down and
then
go out.
Can he stand on his own?
No, true story.
Yeah, but we would see some extreme.
I think you could tell me, like, I think as a rule of thumb, the average person should not go over 5%.
No way, absolutely not. I 100% agree with you.
Anything over 5, you are getting into some dangerous waters.
But as well as I do, everybody thinks I'll be fine.
You think that shit.
That's exactly what you know as well as I do. That's what they think. I'll be okay.
I've had some really Not crazy. Well, maybe crazy. No, I've had some rough ones. I've had some very rough ones actually, and a lot of that was probably my fault. But moving on, what else we got?
Last question is, how many volunteers are needed to run a show like this? So
there's no such thing as too many.
A bunch.
Is my answer. Yeah, I'm honestly hoping to get in the range of 25 to 30.
Okay.
Is really my answer. There's no such thing as too much. If if I end up having, we will get it done, whatever it takes, is the unfortunate reality of the situation. But
the more the people you have, the less you're having to kill your people moving stuff and your crew, your grounds crew.
Collectively, correct.
Well, when I help out with Alan's, my rule of thumb is four people per lane, as far as loading and spotting, is my rule of thumb. So you can have two. You can kind of trade out. Somebody needs to go eat, use the bathroom, whatever. You at least have two there at all times, because you're going to have a judge, your scribe. And then you're going to have, somebody with a spreadsheet kind of floating around, making sure all the weights are loaded and properly. What is that?
That's a vehicle starting, unfortunately.
Oh,
I hear a truck somewhere. Yeah, that's all right.
Get out of here.
But that was my bare minimum. But like you say, you can never have too many. The more you have, the better. But I would like to have, if we have 4 lanes, I want 4 people for each lane. But that's just
the better off it's going to be on your people, not killing your people. And that's important, man, too, because if you kill your help, you can rest assured they will never come back and help you again.
And that's the nice thing about Islands. There's the same people come back year after year to help, and that's nice because they know what's expected and they know they can just jump right in there. And it's not like you got to pull your hair out trying to get people to do this and do that.
Definitely important to keep
your staff happy.
And the comp running efficiently too.
For sure. That's part of it too. Is also if it's unfortunately a laborious day, but we're out at 4:00, then that's great.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And I tell people ahead of time, hey guys, we're going to be done at 4.
Right.
Then okay, at least my expectations are set.
You got to move, dude. Yeah. There was a comp not too long ago that you were at as well, and I will not mention this. But we get there, it just goes to show you that some people, they don't know what they're doing. And it's very obvious when you go there and the promoter is asking for stuff over it's unacceptable to me. You got people paying whatever, and people that just aren't ready. Is like, dude, it's really simple. If you don't know, reach out to people. Reach out to a promoter to help you, or a chair like yourself. What should I do? You should have a checklist, and you should have all your shit ready. You should have stuff ready if this breaks. You should have tools if this breaks. Absolutely. Weather.
Right.
We're in Florida. It's hot as hell. It rains. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen. And I don't know if you know the comp I'm talking about. It was not too long ago. And
I do.
Things broke. Things broke in warm up.
Things broke at the first
run, event. Yes.
The first live round run.
Didn't have stopwatches. I'm like, how? And honestly, where the comp is a cool place and it has potential, but I don't know with that promoter. You know what I mean? So, and that'll all work itself out too. But, and I think that people really pay attention to that too. I know I do. Like if I go to a comp and it's ran shit, I'm like, what an absolute idiot. Yeah. What an idiot.
Well,
because it's a bad experience for everybody.
It is.
Or if it runs, if we're starting at, that comp also started an hour late, and then it runs into the night. It's unacceptable. You are not ready. You don't have enough people.
Can't waste anybody's time. We all have things to do, man.
Yeah, and especially if it's Saturday or whatever, people want to get home. You know what I mean? Like don't waste people's time, man. Yeah. Have your shit ready. Have things in place.
Prepared,
it's just it's all a balance. That's the trickiest part I think of promoting is the balance of how do I make this challenging but approachable? How do I make this a big scale event with maybe 5 different things to do, but get it done on time and efficiently
right.
and safely?
Sure.
And how do I do it so that I don't have to have 10 million resets in between every single event so that it takes, so it saves my volunteers? Like how do, there's all of these different things. The surface that we're on, there's so many more things that I have to worry about because it's the field of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I cannot screw it up.
They're not playing
You'll
around.
never come back.
That's the reason why I keep alluding to this event, whether it might be 2 or up to 4 lanes, is because we're sort of just figuring that out with how it's going to go on the surface. There is a plan, but I have
shit happens.
Correct. It's just you plan. This is what we were talking about. There is there is plan A, B, C, and D and E right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, and I do not want to go to D and E, but A through C will work great.
Good.
Cool.
Yeah,
You know.
and as far as I think you've had decent judges in the past, and that's another thing that's very important. Some of the lower grade, or I don't want to say lower grade, but newer comps, and they get people that really aren't competent judges. That's bad for a competitor as well.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, if you're getting bad calls or they're just letting everything fly, it's like you can't make everybody happy in this shit, man. Like it should be black and white. Did you get it? Yes, no. You're gonna have a couple bad calls in here and there, but big.
At least at the very least be consistent.
Fair and consistent. Yeah.
Qualified judges make a big difference. Yeah, I mean, all the way down the line for sure.
And I will. All I can say for now is, I'm working on that. Let me follow back up in about 6 months. I think I'll have something in that arena that you'll really enjoy and like. But it's a long-term work in progress. But it's going to be great.
Cool.
In that sector specifically.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on, and
Thanks for having
the
me,
trip.
fellas.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm excited about this. So
I think we got a lot of information out there, and
yeah,
I think moving forward, you get more guys in that can talk, about the sport, and hopefully, people get ideas from other people, or
all my best ideas have mostly come from other people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that, one thing, as we've talked about Alan a handful of times, I'm not doing it this time, but sometimes I'm taking the idea from him where, hey, all these lanes are running independently. Go do your thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
This time, no, it just doesn't work. But
Well,
there are other instances where I'm like, oh, why haven't I done that before?
And with saying that, competent judges, where you can trust your judges and your
and I can
scores.
walk away and say, these guys are going to be fine. Just do it.
And I think the reason he can do that is having people like John. Believe it or not, John's pretty good on the field. I don't know if you know this or not.
if I don't fall asleep.
Yeah, he falls asleep. But having someone that can delegate everything.
Yep.
If you got a good delegator that knows if there's a problem, hey, we need to fix this real quick. We need to tighten this up. That's a big deal. And I think that's how Alan can do that too. Is he's got people that know the deal. And that's not to say that people can't learn it, as they go. But if you want an efficient show, you better bring people that knows what the hell's going on, and they're not here to learn.
Or make it so unbelievably clear cut that there's, and sometimes that's part of it too. Is just things are just too dang complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You can have somebody that's tried and true, and we've all been to events where like, wow, this is just a little too many stipulations or this or that. So
You
Right.
can do this, but you can't do that.
sometimes
so.
I've had people that have tremendous discretion. One of my closest friends is a very high-level Highland Games competitor, not specifically strongman, but I know this guy is going to be a better judge than a lot of these people that have done 50 strongman comps.
Right.
So because here's the rule, it's this straightforward, and
Black
you have
and
a
white.
lot of athletic experience, so you understand what we're going for.
Right, absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. Even from a judge, a good judge to me should probably be somebody that's been down the line a lot of times. Same with the promoter. You get a good promoter, the promoter has to be able to understand the athlete, what's expected, timing. I don't want to warm up and I've had this at nationals too, warm up, and then my last warm up is an hour before I go to pull a 630 or 650 deadlift. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, not only is it bad, it's dangerous. You know what I mean? But it happens with a lot of people, but I think better planning could definitely help that. And, people that are good judges and promoters are usually people that's walked that line. You know what I mean? So that's important to me when I look at a comp or a big comp moving forward, is people that understand all facets of it.
I think that's one of the things that's helped me with my competitions is I've been there as a volunteer, athlete, judge,
Right.
scorekeeper, and everything
Right.
else. So I really,
Well,
sincerely try to think of it from every single
You're
person's
doing higher
perspective.
level comps now the last couple of years too. So
Yep.
you've
Now I see it even bigger.
and even as a coach, to me that's a big deal too. Like you see
Yep.
a lot of lower level people, and are they going to be able to get you to these comps that they've never been to? I don't know, maybe, but I would feel more confident. Like, oh, you want to go to the Arnold, or you want to go to OSG? You want to go? Yeah, I've been there and I've done that. This is how I did
Correct.
it.
Correct.
So I think it does make a difference.
It's
As far as
important to if you want to get out there and be active and do things, it is important to walk the walk.
right. I totally agree with that. And like I said, not to sound like a dick, man, but some of these promoters have talked a lot of shit, even locally, and I've never seen them do anything.
I mean, it's
You know
all.
what I mean?
It's not just promoters. It's athletes. It's
Mm-hmm.
online influencers. It's
Huh.
merchandise companies. It's it's all
Yeah.
it's all sorts of things. It's just the nature of the beast right now, you know.
Right.
And
Most of those you ignore anyway. So
yeah, it's all good. It's all good, you know, because really, again, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Is because we have more good in strongman than we've ever had before. I think everything in life has a yin and yang. You cannot have
More exposure,
one. You don't have
more
one
everything.
without the other. You do not have like the best, you know, a unbelievably huge growing crop of unbelievably talented athletes without like sort of a little bit of like stink in the way as well. It just is sort of part of the process. Strongman is cool, it's hot, it's exciting, and some people, for the right and wrong reasons, you know, so I should just say some people want to be involved for the wrong reasons because they think it's like really super cool and not because they genuinely love it and want to push other people to be their strongest and best self.
yeah.
I want
That's all it is.
to end with one question that I'm just kind of pulling this off the top of my head, but what is your thought on the novice process? And the only reason I ask you this is when I first got into strongman, you could do novice one time only. It did not matter where you finished.
Got it.
You went up. So now I see a lot of cherry picking novice people.
Yeah.
What is your thought on that? And I mean, do you think that these guys that are doing a ton of novice comps, do you agree that you're really hindering yourself by doing that? Like you
100%.
need to jump
100%.
in. You need to jump in the water. Maybe get your ass beat a few times, but you're going to come out better for it.
For sure.
What's your opinion on that? I mean, because you see it a lot. I know you have a big novice.
Oh yeah.
Big novice thing.
I see a handful of novices I've not seen a handful of times. Now, because I run shows, I do sometimes message people and say, I will not let you sign up as novice
Sure.
again. You need to go into the open. And when they have actually ended up signing up and gone forward, every time they've said thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
After they competed, they said, I'm glad I did that. Thanks.
Now,
But so to answer your question though is I think that novice is a phenomenal stepping stone available to some people. I understand why even sometimes people may do up to like 2 or 3. Let's say you do your first novice show and you've never touched any strongman implement whatsoever, and then you do 2 more within the span of like 6 months. Cool, got it, no problem. So it's hard to put restrictions and caps on that, but
Right.
yeah, the goal is to be the best and strongest and most successful version of yourself, and you are doing that with the people that you surround yourself with. So if you're going into the open class, even if you get last, those people are going to push you harder.
Sure.
They're going to teach you more. They're going to inspire you. It's your network now. You know,
What
if
if-
you try hard, even if you get dead last and you're a really cool person, guess what? You're
Right.
in the club now. You're in.
what is the rule in place right now as far as that goes on USS?
If you win
top?
novice, then you have to move up.
But so
If you win one novice show, no more novice
but you
ever
can
again.
finish second or third and still do another novice comp?
That's the current rule.
Oh wow! See, I thought that's what it was, and I was like, I don't.
That's the
agree with
current
that.
rule.
I thought it was if you finish top 3, which I believe is how it is in strongman corp. If you finish top 3, I think you have to move up. And I agree with that. I absolutely. If you podium, dude, get out. You know what I mean? Go out.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of people, and you're going to see that in every sport,
Yep.
of course.
Yep.
But I was just wondering your opinion on that because
And it also depends too, because it's just not black and white, because I have 17 person, I might have 20 in novice. I don't believe in doing novice weight classes because the goal is to go to the open,
sure.
right? So novice, when you podium in a class of 17, then yes, obviously you are good enough to move on up. If you're
Right.
podium in a class of 3, if you're 3 of 3, then I understand maybe it is not your time to have to move up.
Let me go further with this and ask you.
I was
real
about
quick.
to. Yeah.
Do you think that no matter where you finish, you should only be able to do, let's say that the set is 5, because
Yeah,
maybe
there should be a cap, because
if you haven't made, I don't want to be an asshole here, but if you haven't made it anything
not progressing,
maybe this isn't for you, and I'll be the first one to tell you.
or you need to reassess what's going on. How come you are not good enough to do open?
Yeah.
Yet? What's going on? Do you have a bad coach? Are you not trying hard
Yeah.
enough? Are you not taking care of yourself? What's
Do
happening
you not
here?
have access to the implements? I mean,
Yeah.
not a lot of people do. you
Well,
know?
I've always, all this stuff came around, this big shit was going around, strongman's for everybody, which I don't believe that at all. I mean, can someone train implements and stuff like that? But as far as to say strongman's for everybody, I look at it as a sport, like a competitor. I'm like, now, because if you want to say it's for everybody to train implements and stuff, then sure it is.
So CrossFit says, they say frequently, CrossFit's for anybody, not everybody.
Right, yeah.
Right, so strongman can be for anybody, but it's not for everybody, and that's
Sure.
cool. It's no problem.
Sure.
So I got to ask on this novice question: how do you feel about novice in nationals?
There is no novice in nationals.
Yes, there is.
Not for USS.
Yes, there is. Absolutely, there is. It's a huge draw for USS Nationals.
Novice, if you win novice,
No.
if you win novice in a local show,
No.
can we verify? I want to know this because
No, dude, what-
I trust you. I take your word for it.
No,
but
absolutely.
Because
It's
we've
huge.
talked about this numerous times with other.
Get out. USS Nationals 2025.
They have novice, dude.
Now I need to know for myself.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna have to edit this.
Oh, then I really don't like that.
It popped right up.
I really don't care for that if that's the situation.
Yeah, dude. There's a ton of them there, because they cap it. That 1 year, bro. It was
Where would it be at?
go back down.
So you could do view scoreboard. I guess that would like show it if there was anything there. So we got opens. Yeah, just keep scrolling down here. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Masters. Chantal, she did my show. I know her. Natalie, know her.
Teen open.
Are they going to be at the bottom?
Rob Floater, know him. What's up, Rob? You listen to this?
Maybe they're at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't think so for USS Nationals.
Unless it changed, because
When I did it last year, definitively no, there was not a novice class.
okay. So I wonder if they changed that. I wonder, is there any way we can go back? Where are our
2024?
archives? Or even 23.
24, yeah, 24 was Denver. 23
23.
had novice. Interesting.
Let me see
I'm almost, unless I'm totally wrong, I'm almost positive that you
Not
could
this
go.
year.
You could go there.
All right.
No, firm disagree that you should be able to do that. It's Nationals. Give me a break.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I didn't think so either. Well, then I'm wrong then. I could have sworn.
We saw that somewhere. I know we saw that somewhere.
Hey, maybe. I mean, USS is in its 10th year, so I mean, as they were growing,
can't
I
believe
understand
it.
if
God,
they
they've
were
been
maybe
around
trying to
10 years
squeeze
now?
them. Yeah,
Oh wow, I did not know
it's
that.
past 10 years. Last year sometime.
I wonder if you can
Try
go.
23 because
No.
they definitely didn't have it
Yeah.
at 24.
23 would have been Texas. I saw you in Texas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I had the worst weight cut of my life.
I remember that. You didn't look good that
Oh,
day,
I
man.
was in-
Sorry.
I was in bad shape, brother. I tried something new, and let me tell you, that shit did not work.
What was your? You wanna share anybody while we're talking about it? What did not work? If you don't.
So I tried someone else's technique. I've been doing this. I've never missed weight in my life, and I tried something with someone else as like a coach. I don't want to mention a name. It did not work at all, and this guy had me push my water intake way further than I normally would have, time wise, and I ended up being about between 4 to 6 pounds over. Which is unheard of. I've never missed weight in my life. Not in powerlifting, not strongman, ever. Tried something new, and I knew I was in trouble when I want to say on my scale, I had about 4 pounds to go, and I got really sick and started throwing up, which I've never had, and I was like, I can't do this. Like I was kind of scared for myself, honestly, health-wise, to where I was like, yeah, this has got to go. Like, So I'm wrong then.
Well, I know we saw that somewhere because we've been talking about it for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I could have swore unless they had cut it out
maybe years ago.
maybe years ago,
Maybe.
and I thought it was still going on. I don't know.
My apologies.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would have been wrong too, because I could have swore that was going on. I was
Well,
like, that's
let's-
really strange.
Let's put a pin on that on that topic, anyways. Your goal, if you're in strength training, why are you doing it to begin with? It is to get better. It is to get
100%.
stronger. So why would you limit yourself to
Sure.
a low level? And this is to really kind of circle all the way back to where we were talking about earlier is aim high. Aim high. You're only going to get better by getting around
I
better
agree.
people, harder people, people that will challenge you, people that
Right.
might kick your freaking butt, dude. And you know, competitions that demand the most out of you, competitions that you might zero. You know, you're like if you're going in and saying like, I'm not going to do that competition because I might, zero this or that event.
Sure.
That should be more reasons to try to run headfirst into it, because now you've got pressure. Now you've got a ticking clock where like you have to try and hit this by this point in time.
Right.
I did not successfully get the circus dumbbell at OSG 23, but I got way stronger on that one because I had to real time
Right.
crunch. And now I'm, I would hit that weight all day now.
Well, there's something to be said about what failure does for you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And society now, everybody tries to keep their kids happy, and they get a little participation medal, and we both have kids. Our kids are grown.
Yeah.
And I never bought into any of that. Like, if my kid was going to do something, then if we get our ass beat, you need to teach your people, and this is grown adults, that they need to learn how to lose as well.
Yep.
I don't want to hear excuses, and all my athletes know, because everybody has finished second, third, fourth, or whatever the case may be. The only excuse that's acceptable to me in my camp at all is, the only thing you could say that's acceptable is, I just need to get stronger. No one can hate on that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? How'd you do, man? I didn't do as well. I need to get stronger. I don't want to hear, oh, well, my hamstring, or I did this 2 weeks ago. I don't care. No, and it's horseshit to hear.
Completely objective, tactical approach, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just like, I just need to get stronger. That's always the fact. That never is, it's always the truth. You know what I mean? You never arrive at a place in this sport where you're like, well, this is it.
Yeah.
I've done everything I want to do. I'm going to walk away.
No, it never happens.
Unfortunately, either injury takes you out, or, some people just don't want to do it anymore. Mentally they get to where it's like, man, I've had enough.
I just don't love it anymore. Yeah, sure.
Sure. I remember it was, what's the guy's name, man? Efforting. Stan Efforting said one time, and I thought it was great the way he described it, because Stan ran really heavy until his 50s.
Stan the man.
He's still a freak.
The rhino.
Powerlifting and, bodybuilding. And I remember him saying this at his age. He goes, it's not because I don't want to do this anymore, or because I can't do this anymore, because I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of people get to that. And, I could probably see that in my crossroads coming at sooner than later, getting older. And I'm proud of what I've done in this, but I don't want to be one of these people. We talk about this a lot, and it happens. We've seen this happen a lot lately, to where people are taking the option to live a good life and quality of life away because they stayed in way too long, and they fucked themselves up so bad.
For sure. That happens.
And for a sport that, I'm sorry, that no one outside these circles give a shit
Doesn't
about.
care.
And honestly, it's very forgetting from year to year. Who won OSG last year? I really couldn't tell you.
Right, only maybe because I was there and I really
there you go.
Love it, but
for
cares?
The most part, or who finished top 5? The 5th place guy is a bad dude or a bad woman.
Yep.
Tell me who finished 5th. You don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
right.
What's your saying?
Who finished 5th at World's Strongest Man? Even there, a lot of people would be like,
I can't remember. Yeah, I've got this saying. I've said it many times on this podcast. I've said it, a lot, and it's true. It's like, when you're done with strongman is done with you. It just keeps moving. There's no like, man, you remember that guy?
And then the good news, I guess, is, nowadays you have people, including Lawrence Chalet, and Gabe Pena. Like, those are two people that I think. Lawrence has got his YouTube channel. He does backstage stuff now. He commentates MC. Gabe Pena does commentary for all these shows. So, if you really love it, there's ways to be involved and contribute and produce.
100%. And I absolutely respect that. Like, I would definitely like to get back into judging more when I'm needed. You know what I mean? I definitely understand the process of it. But like you said, yeah, there's ways to stay in it, and I like when people do. And honestly, I'm way happier when I see a judge like Heath Allison,
yes,
OG pro strongman. When that guy's judging me, you're going to get a very honest judge.
Fair.
It's going to be black and white. Doesn't matter who you are. If this is the rules, Mike's actually a very good judge. He's very very matter of fact. You know what I mean? You got a good judge, and I've been judged by guys like that. And John Adams, if you remember John, like, he had to give me a slide penalty one time. He's like,
sorry, man.
He's like, bro,
rules.
I said, man, I deserve it.
If you're a true athlete, you'll understand.
And he knew. He's like, man, I'm sorry, man. But I said, no, bro, I totally understand. And I respected him for that. You know what I mean?
Keep
it legit.
Hey, give it no reps, but I'll tell you why. If I can tell you why, then then it's tough. That is what it is.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference, though. It really does. Getting judged by like these OGs of the sport that maybe just don't compete anymore or don't want to. You know what I mean? Yeah. But whatever the case is, man. But we'll wrap it up, man. Steve, I appreciate it, and
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me, guys. If you're listening, World's Strongest Manatee,
number 5,
April 19th. That is next Saturday coming up. There is a live stream on Ellison Fitness Innovations. But if you want any links or information, check me out on Instagram for the competition at World's Strongest Manatee, and at my personal at Stephen M Coyne Coyne.
Awesome, man. Anything to finish up with? Listen to the podcast, obviously. We are on YouTube. What's the YouTube channel?
Gorilla Strength Podcast, Spotify. Like, share, subscribe.
Do it.
All right, wrap it up. See ya.